All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 3 o'clock. The Trailblazers head into the All-Star break winning 4 of their last 5 games. Portland put up 40 points in the third quarter last night to defeat the Jazz. Donovan Clingan, 23 points, 18 boards, and 7 assists. Drew Holiday poured in 31. Next game, 1 week from tonight, as Portland will host Denver. Tip-off from Moda Center at 7. Trailblazers right now sit at 27 and 29, 10th in the West with 26 games to play this weekend. The Blazers will be well represented at All-Star Weekend with Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen in the Rising Stars Challenge. Dame looking for his third three-point shooting contest title, and Denny Avdia in his first All-Star game. Elsewhere, Chris Paul has announced his retirement after 21 seasons in the NBA. The Jazz have been fined $500,000 and the Pacers $100,000 for resting players. Rip City Drive's coming up next. Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager for Spirit Mountain Casino at 3:20 talking futures, and Brian Noe at 5:20. All right, my friends, I hope you're enjoying your Friday as we get ready to enter the All-Star Weekend in the NBA. And that means a bit of a breather for myself and the rest of the people who cover all the games. The Blazers will not play another game until Friday. A week from tonight, the Denver Nuggets will be in town to kick off the second half or the stretch run in the NBA. The Blazers have 26 more games to play, and they're in a really good spot. Getting healthy at the right time of the year, and they're going to be in the playoffs, whether that's just the play-in or they advance to become one of the top 8 seeds. They're going to be a playoff contributor. They're going to be in the mix, which is awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about the game last night, but what I want to do is take a look back to the beginning of the year and look at my expectations and predictions and see how things line up or match up as we get ready for the stretch run. Donovan Clingan was an animal last night. He continues to play good basketball, and Drew Holiday had his best scoring output in a Trailblazer uniform. So a lot of good things to talk about today. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, will join us coming up at 5:20. I received a card in the mail from his beautiful mother, and I want to ask him about that because I have not met her, but she was kind enough to send me a note, so I want to ask Brian about that. We'll get his take on the Super Bowl and the meltdown by the Patriots and their offense. We'll talk about some of the futures, and we'll take a look at things with B. No, Fox Sports Radio. Also, here in about 20 minutes, Justin Ballinger from Spirit Mountain Casino, the sportsbook manager, will join us. We'll recap the Super Bowl and how things played out on Sunday. We'll also take a look at some of the futures in the NFL, which is cool. And, of course, the next big flagpole or betting excitement aside from UFC, the NCAA tournament, which is right around the corner. So a lot of good things to talk about. And then Michelle Jalali, who is the Senior Director of DEI with the Trailblazers, joins me at 4:20 to talk about a big weekend coming up with HBCU to the pros. So a lot of big events coming up with the Trailblazers. Michelle Jalali will join me at 4:20. Now, you want to reach out to me, you can do so on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528, 88528. Fire away with your messages. You can also call and take part in the program if you would like at 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. I just walked down. I'm live here at the BetMGM Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino. I'm hosting the Diamonds and Dollars drawings tonight after the show. And I'm never... You know, one of the best parts about Spirit Mountain Casino, I think it was right around COVID, when things shut down and they reopened, they eliminated smoking from the casino. One of the best decisions they have ever made. And one of the great things about our society over the years as many things that have gone sideways and as many problems as we have, the one thing that we have accomplished as a people is continuing to force smokers out of our lives. People who smoke cigarettes, people who are old school and smoke cigarettes, who chain smoke, the whole deal, right? I grew up in a different world where my first flight from Tulsa to Dallas on a trip to Six Flags, there were people in the back of the plane who would light up their cigarettes and smoke on the plane. They had a smoking section on the plane, if you can believe that. I would go to Denny's in Hazeldale after a night of cruising Highway 99 with my boys back in high school. We would ask for the non-smoking section. They would put you on one side of a little small glass divider that was on top of the booths, and you'd be in the non-smoking section. The problem is there's people smoking right next to you in the booth, and that little piece of glass did not prevent the smoke from hovering over into your area. So it's been nice because ever since they changed the smoking policy down here, you come in, you work, you hang out, and you leave smelling like you did when you walked in. You know, back in the old days, whether I was at Tom's Pizza up in North Portland when I was bartending or down here at Spirit Mountain Casino, you know, you're around smokers. You can't help but smell like a cigarette. It's problematic. But I am noticing now less and less people smoking. It's mostly the old people. And I walked down to get a cup of coffee before the show. Now, they do have one area. It's a smoking section that's closed off, and they've got a bunch of slot machines and games in there. So if you want to smoke and play, you can go into the smoking section. And it just amazes me that people willingly walk in and participate in that type of stuff. Now, if you want to smoke, that's your business. No difference to me. I would prefer that you don't for your own health, and I want people to live long and healthy lives as long as possible. But if you want to do that and that's the way you roll, then that's up to you. But it just amazes me that people will do that. And so I was asking the lady who made my Americano, she's younger, and I said, out of curiosity, how many friends do you have in your age group that smoke? And she said, none. She goes, but we do have a lot of people my age who are vaping. And I feel like vaping, I've never researched vaping because I don't vape to know what the concerns or damages are. But to me, vaping feels a lot like the tanning beds from like the early 90s. When I used to work at Health Experience Athletic Club, there were people, men, women, you name it, who were utilizing the tanning beds, 5, 6, 7 times a day. And then that probably became a serious issue. We knew that overexposure to the sun was a bad thing, but the tanning beds, especially with the old ladies that would come in with faces like catcher's mitts, that overexposure might not be a good idea. But it feels like vaping could become like the tanning beds from the early 90s. But I haven't done the research on vaping to know what the concerns are of the long-term damage. Now, again, putting moisture into your lungs probably doesn't seem like a sharp idea, but I don't know what that's like compared to, the cigarette smoke and stuff. And I watch a lot of old television shows at night before I fall asleep, and it's funny because everyone used to smoke back then. There used to be a period where people smoked because it was kind of the social thing to do. It was cool. And then they started getting all the data on how bad it was for you, and then by then people were hooked. And my grandpa, my papa smoked for years, and then finally, after years of my Nana just hammering on him verbally day after day after day, he gave it up, as did my grandma. And it was good. Their lungs started to repair and heal immediately, and they were fine. But just funny how that works, the smoking section. They did. You could smoke on planes. You could smoke in restaurants. You could smoke in bars. You could smoke everywhere. And it's just interesting to see how society changes. I got busted when I was a sophomore in high school for possession of marijuana. Me and my buddy were smoking a little doobie out in the parking lot, and someone tattled on us, and the principal came out and busted us. And that was back when it was like, this is very bad. And now, several years later, you can smoke it legally. And that's a societal change. And we'll see what the long-term impacts are on that. Same thing with the legalized gambling, the sports gambling. It's one of the fastest growing industries in the nation by far. Over $2 billion were bet on the Super Bowl. We'll find out what the long-term impacts are on that as well. So there you have it. Now, I'm looking right now at my expectations and predictions for the Trailblazers 2025-26 NBA season. Now, I posted this on my X account back on October 21st, and I pinned it there because I wanted it to stay up the entire season. So let me just read through this real quick to let you know where they are compared to what I thought they would be. Now, my expectations and predictions. I said back on October 21st, 45 wins. The Vegas total had them between 32.5 to 35.5. I said, quote, pound the over. Well, they're very close to that number right now. They have 27 wins on the season with 26 games to go. They're easily going to hit the over. And I went through the final 26 games. I have them going 19-7 down the stretch because they have a number of games against teams that are actively tanking. They're getting healthy, and we're going to see the true version of the Trailblazers, which is a good thing. And they play a lot of bum teams. They're going to pile up wins because their schedule out of the gate was very difficult. But the advantage of playing such a hard schedule early in the season is that when it lightens up, you get to take advantage of the opportunities later in the year. So I think they're going to hit 45 or 46 wins. They're right in position to do that based on my projection, and they're easily going to take the over. So I think I can put a check mark by that one. Now, time will tell, but I like where the team is at. They're 4-1 in the last 5 going into the All-Star break, and we're seeing the return of guys. They're getting healthy, and Shaedon Sharpe should be back in the very near future, probably after the break, with that flared-up calf. But Drew Holiday is back in the lineup. Jeremy Grant is back in the lineup. Deni Avdija is back in the lineup. They've got their guys, and they're going to play good basketball down the stretch. Now, I also projected a top 5 to top 10 defense, somewhere between 5 and 10 for defense this year. Now, this is one area where they have not lived up to my expectation. And I think part of that is probably because of the injuries that have taken place. So many guys in and out of the lineup. They played a significant portion of the first half of the season with 5 rotational guys out. It's very difficult when you're bringing in, guys off the bench, guys who weren't expected to play. You're going to lose some quality there, and they have on the defensive end. But they're 19th in defensive rating. So not horrible, not great, but unlikely that they're going to reach the top 10 with 26 games to go. But I think we will see some improvement on the defensive end based on the return of their guys and getting healthy. Now, I also projected Kamar to be a first-team all-defensive player. He's certainly playing like that. The guy leads the league in miles traveled on defense. He is the one guy on the roster who regularly picks up the other team's, the opposing player's best offensive option. And he leads the league in charges drawn. The guy's a stud. Toumani Camara absolutely is a first-team all-defensive player. We'll see if he makes the team, but he's playing like a guy who can do that. So I think I can put a check mark by Camara being a first-team all-defensive player. My next projection was Sharpe will emerge as a number 1 option. Well, we certainly have seen it during stretches this year, and I'm hoping that he'll continue to showcase that as we get into the stretch run with the final 26 games to go. But he is continuing to develop and emerge. Is he the team's number 1 option right now? Not quite, but he's getting close. So we'll wait to see if we can put a check mark by that. And this last one, I was dead on. Team MVP, Deni Avdija. Not only is he team MVP, but he's even better than what they thought when they got him from Washington. He has become a budding superstar in the NBA, one of the best players, and he's getting ready to play in his first All-Star game. So my projections, so far, so good. And when I put him out there, people are like, oh, Chad, 45 wins. That's way too steep. Really? They look pretty good right now, and they're going to play good basketball down the stretch. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back. Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager for Spirit Mountain Casino, going to join me, and we'll recap the Super Bowl, and then we'll take a look at some of the futures. I'm live here at the BetMGM Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, always a pleasure to welcome in the sportsbook manager from Spirit Mountain Casino, Justin Ballinger, who is with me, and such a different vibe coming down here this weekend. Last weekend when I came down, you could feel the buzz with the Super Bowl. People were excited, and now it's unfortunate because we're entering into that time of the year where it's like, no football, man. I hate it.
I know, right? No football. Got a couple things like March Madness on the horizon, but it just feels like it's far enough away where we kind of don't have much going on right now.
Yeah, I know it's tough. So is March Madness, the NCAA tournament, is that kind of the next big event for you guys?
Absolutely, yeah. The next big one, and a top 3 event for us overall. Not necessarily any one given day, but the tournament as a whole is just a fantastic turnout.
All right, great. So we'll get more into the tournament. I want to talk some NFL futures with you to kind of get an idea of where people are leaning right now. But, looking back at the Super Bowl, it's interesting, not just you or Chinook or A or some of the surrounding sports books that are based in the Northwest, but we're talking about nationwide, Vegas, New York, Atlantic City, all the big sports books around the country. They all got hammered in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was just unanimous across the board. Everyone needed the Patriots, and as we all know, Seattle just smoked them.
So what can you do as a sports book, or what can the industry do, or are you just going to find these moments where the team and the winner and the spread, it's obvious? What can be done to prevent that type of damage when the public is in a position to win big like that? Is there anything?
Yeah, not necessarily. Not when, the spread gets blown out by 15, 20 points like that. It's really hard. There's little things you can try and do. Sometimes maybe if you have the same spread, you could juice it up, make 125, 130 to win 100, things like that.
Yeah.
Go a half point or a full point off maybe a consensus spread that other sports books have. But it's tough when it's just one of those blowouts. I still hear bookmakers refer back to, the Niners when they had Jerry Rice. It's like you couldn't have made them bigger favorites, and they still covered the spread every time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if they would have come out, I don't know how this works, but if they would have come out, like if odds makers would be like, dude, this is a total mismatch, Seahawks are going to win handedly, and they set the Seahawks as like a 12, 13, 14-point favorite, what happens then? You don't get the type of action on the game that you're looking for, right?
Right. Of course, you'll probably limit how much you lose, but you're not, even if you come out on the right side there, you're not going to take in nearly what you would see with a more consensus line.
Yeah. It's funny, you and I talked about it, and I think you and I've learned a lot from you over the last couple of years of talking to you, and I guess I reached the point where I think you and I thought about the game the same way. Like the Seahawks were the better team. They were likely going to win. I just never want to put myself in a position to be on the opposite side of what the house needs. I just don't think that's a good place to live for a long period of time. But when I look back at the game, it's like it really was one of those situations that was that obvious. One team was clearly better, and the game played out that way.
Yeah. Like you said, it's just a tough one. I'm like you, where I've been in the industry now long enough, and I'm like I always pick my spots, but I always want to be on the right side. What the house or what Vegas needs.
Yeah.
When I do pick my spots, that's just how my brain's wired or whatever. But when these games come around, it's tough. Like I personally, obviously, I had a lot riding on it just by working here and everything. But I didn't place a wager on the game myself because all the indicators were telling me New England, but my gut was just so cemented that Seattle was going to pull it out. So,
yeah.
I've just stayed away from it.
That's very interesting. Now, I would say this is what I was thinking about long term. Like, in a way, is it a good thing where, you may not want to get hammered on one game like this, the Super Bowl, but if you have a lot of your regular customers who get a big win or are really happy after a game like that, can that be good from the standpoint that you might create more customers who want to become more involved as the season or the year moves along to wager more?
Yeah, absolutely. You're always, you have to accept that, it's even, what do they say? Winning sports bettors are hitting 55% of the time. So,
yeah.
It's so close to a 50-50 swing with all these games throughout the year and everything. And, it's just one of those, every now and then, you're going to get bit, and it's better to just kind of embrace it and roll with it, For us, it being a local team, we wanted, hey, come on out to the Spirit Mountain, have a great time, watch your Seahawks, play in their Super Bowl. The event center was rocking, the whole casino floor and the sports book were rocking, and some of those, sometimes you just have to accept what this might happen, and sometimes it's a good thing.
How much play did you get on the kiosk machines for the in-game betting? Not just the ones that were in the event center, but throughout the course of the game. Was there action on that?
There was good action. This is funny. It wasn't as high on the in-play betting as I thought, but that's because I think everyone had their Seattle tickets, and they're just watching this obliteration unfold. So it's like, I got a winning ticket already. I don't need to go, bet anything else.
Well, it's funny. I walked down here at halftime to see you and get your thoughts on the first half, and I talked to a couple of people who had the second half line, and they were like, Seattle's even for the second half, at like minus 120 or what it was. It's like, I don't understand why that's the case when they're dominating, but they were afraid to make a wager because they didn't want to shake up what they already had because they knew they had winning tickets in their hands.
Exactly. Yeah. It almost we took so few halftime bets, and I think that was part of it. It was so confusing. Why is it a pick 'em at halftime when Seattle's been rolling them, and it almost one, scared people off, and then two, why mess with when you have two jacks and blackjack, you don't necessarily split them. Why rake up a winning
That's
hand?
a great point. So, and I would say that, what would you say the majority of halftime bets are? It could be people looking to kind of hedge a little bit if they feel like they're in trouble, or people who like waiting until halftime because they might be getting better value on a favorite that might be trailing that they think is going to come back and win. Right. Is that kind of what you get there with halftime?
That, or sometimes, like the team you bet on, say they're a favorite, for example, and they're losing at halftime, you might still get the same odds that you got pregame based on that. And so some people might, just decide to double down because they still
feel good
able
about
to
the game.
Get the same odds. Yeah.
All right, so that's very interesting. Well, you can't win them all. Even the house can't win them all, Justin.
Can't win them all.
All right, so now we look ahead. You've already got your futures out for the NFL season. And are these futures to win the Super Bowl, to win the division, the conference? How do you have them set up?
Right now we have Super Bowl and conference futures released.
What are some of the numbers that you have? What are some of the teams? Give me examples.
So Super Bowl, right now our favorites are the Seattle Seahawks at 8-1.
Not a surprise.
No, not a surprise. And then, of course, the Rams are second at 9-1. And, I mean, a lot of us, felt like that was kind of the Super Bowl when the Seahawks and Rams played. So, of course, it makes sense that they're the two favorites. The next two are Baltimore and Buffalo. So, the big superstar quarterbacks getting their new coaches.
Yeah.
Maybe that's obviously inspiring people to, want to come in and bet on them. And, then you go down and you got the similar team, Philly, Green Bay, Chargers, Lions, and then Kansas City at 15-1. It's the best value you can get on them in 7-8 years. But, Mahomes is going to be out at least, I think, the first half of the season or so.
With the injury.
With the injury. So, yeah, I mean, it's still it's for the most part, it's similar teams. It's just that Seattle and the Rams have really separated themselves.
Now, with the numbers on the Rams and the Seahawks, two very good teams that we think will be very competitive next year, I wonder if it might be better from a player's perspective to wait until maybe the first or second week of the season, because if one of those teams were to take an early loss, you might suddenly get them at better odds to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I do a lot. If I like a team and it's, some big championship that's a few months down the line and they're only 4-1 odds or something, it's like, well, even if they continue winning at this rate, you might still get them at 350 or 325.
Yeah. A good example of that would be the LA Dodgers, a team that we like, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're prohibitive favorites to win it.
Yep. This past year when they were down to Toronto, what was it, 2-1 in the World Series?
Yeah.
Or they went down 1-0. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I got them in at like plus 160 during the World Series.
Yeah. And that's a good value for a team with that much talent.
Right. When they were sitting at 2-1, for most of the season.
Or the other example would be the Miami Hurricanes, right? A lot of people jumped on them, one of the last teams into the playoff field. So you were getting the Canes, a talented team, at good odds at that point.
Yeah. We gave out 125-1 on the Canes in December when they were only 40, 50, 60-1, for most of the season.
Wow. See, just by being patient, you end up getting the Canes at 125-1 compared to playing the Seahawks right now at 8-1.
Correct, yeah.
Very interesting. Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager for Spirit Mountain Casino, is with us here. So when will or when do you expect to have the Week 1 lines for the NFL? Does that come out after free agency? Is it after the draft? When will you start to get the lines posted for Week 1?
Yeah, it's still a ways away. They let free agency play out. They let the draft go. However, I believe it's a July thing when those come out. And I do recall during the entire preseason, as the preseason lines are coming, we always have Week 1 lines during the entire preseason.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, I mean we're still a little ways away. They do want the rosters, teams to settle and everything. But
how interesting are Week 1 lines to you as a bookmaker in terms of getting a feel for the season, the teams, and kind of the matchups and how it sets up? What are you looking for there?
It's weird. So for me, and I don't know if everyone feels this way, for me, Week 1 is such a crapshoot where I'm almost more open to come in and bet our limits, reach the limit, because I personally don't think anyone knows anything yet.
Yeah.
It's too early. So I kind of on the side of fire away Week 1.
Yeah.
And I for my own betting, what I do myself, I always cut my bets in half for Week 1 just because of the uncertainty. It's these teams looked this way 8 months ago. Are they going to look the same? I don't know.
Yeah. So. Or you get like the Week 1 overreaction, right? Where like last year the Jets came out and played a sensational game against the Steelers. You have these teams that overperform Week 1.
Yep.
So you think you know what they're about, and then a couple of weeks later you realize like no, that the teams start to separate themselves.
Very true. Patriots lost to the Raiders.
That's
Week
right.
1 this year.
Yep. And the Raiders went sideways after that, and the Patriots began their pathway to the AFC Championship.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of just so much uncertainty, in my opinion, Week 1.
Okay, so the next big item is going to be March Madness. Who are the teams? Have you taken any futures on any significant right now in the tournament?
I mean, we have a few teams that we get hit for a pretty good chunk on. The only one that's kind of eliminated themselves, unfortunately, is Oregon.
Yeah.
Unless they win the Big Ten tournament, which I don't even know if they're in right now, to make it. But as for the teams that will be in the tournament, Gonzaga's a liability for us. Arizona and UConn, which makes sense to me. UConn being the back-to-back juggernaut they were, in Arizona being the number 1 team this year.
I've seen them play a few times. Arizona looks really good.
Yeah, they look really good. And then a weird one, and if you're out there listening, we have one guy who's come in and he's bet Texas A&M quite a few times. So we have a little liability on Texas A&M as well.
Interesting. Yeah. So he loves the Aggies this year.
Yeah, and they've just, they're up in the top 4 of the SEC, and it's just their odds never really adjust. They've been 200, 250 to 1 all year, so just good value on them.
That's incredible. What's funny is I don't recall a time in my life where the Aggies have been like a real player in basketball.
No, yeah, they've had a couple Sweet 16 runs that I can recall, but other than that, and I think those were even a little fluky.
Now you're a Gonzaga guy. That's where you went to school. You love the Zags. What do you think about their squad this year? If they get healthy, do you think they've got a chance to compete? What do you see from this group?
Yeah, that's the big issue right now. They lost Braden Huff, about 3-4 weeks ago now, to a knee injury, and it happened closed doors during a practice. And the way that the news came out, it was so suspicious and weird, and there weren't any details on it. And so Huff still he was rehabbing. He came back last game and was sitting at least in the stadium, but you can tell that the knee is there. It scares me. I'm not 100% sure he's going to play again this year. And so if they lose him, I'm obviously not nearly as high on the Zags as I would be. If they can get him in there, with Graham Ike, I like the Zags at least, to win a couple games. But right now they're searching for an identity, and it's pretty evident in the games that I'm watching.
Now, if we have, we probably have some novice sports bettors out there. With the tournament coming up, what's the best way, do you think, for people who are still getting into sports betting to approach the tournament? Would it be to come down at Spirit Mountain Casino on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the first weekend of action, and start to take things in? There's so many teams, and of course, not all of us watch every single team in the tournament. So, what's a good way to approach it?
Yeah, I'm actually in the boat of I kind of like betting all the tournament games individually, rather than having a couple future tickets where you're just you're only watching certain games here and there. But I think if you haven't done it before, or if it's pretty new to you, just being in that atmosphere and that environment, it's you don't get it in other sports.
Yeah.
And you know, like college football Saturdays, obviously but it's not the same intensity level. It's not the same, you know, just raw emotion. So I actually say if you've never done it before, come on down and bet every game every day and see how you like it. It's a lot of fun.
It really is. There's nothing like it because you got all that emotion packed into like a 2-hour period. And the great thing about college basketball is that, you know, the three-pointer can change a game where a team that's an underdog can get hot from downtown, and that can overcome a talent gap for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the tournament, I think it's that, you know, win and move on, lose and you go home type deal. It's a one and done.
Right. It's not like the NBA. You know, you could have 3 bad games in an NBA series and still advance. So I think you're right. 1 10-minute shooting slump and, you know, your season's in jeopardy.
Yeah. Do you think the Blazers look like they're getting healthy and they're on a pathway to being a part of the play-in? Like, do you get any interest from bettors on the Blazers in terms of what you're seeing right now?
It's slowly building.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I mean, we had a drop off obviously the last couple years, you know, just with their performance and
probably more people fading the Blazers than playing.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So we're at least having conversations where there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with some of our guests and everything. And I do think if it's not this year, I do think going into next year we're going to start really ramping up Blazers because I mean the trajectory they're on seems like we're doing the right things here. So
all right, so March Madness, and of course you always have all of the UFC fights, and people love betting on UFC, and you always show them here in the sportsbook, which brings a crowd and a good atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah. Every UFC event, pay-per-view or fight night, we have here. That's
great. Have you ever wagered on UFC?
Very minimally. I don't know much about it. You know, I'll sit there and watch the fight. I don't know the move. I don't know what punch the guy is going for or anything.
Me too. I love watching it. But you and I, we grew up in the same era. I grew up with boxing, so.
Yeah, I mean it's still like kind of the new kid on the block, I guess, to me. But I don't know. I'm here for violence, but not necessarily that much violence all the time. But
that's the problem. As I get older, I don't deal well with watching violence like I did when I was younger. You know?
There are some things that you watch during the UFC fights where I just have to look away. But
yeah, is there any other baseball team outside of the Dodgers that you think might be good value? I mean, the Dodgers are the prohibitive favorite and the best team, but who else do you see lurking baseball-wise that might be interesting?
Yeah, I mean. We have, Yankees and Seattle are the 2 favorites on that side.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten our slew of Mariners bets yet.
But they're coming,
I'm sure they're coming, absolutely.
You got a lot of Mariner action as the season moved along last year, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just like the, how big the Cal Raleigh support kind of grew to be throughout the season.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. And so I think as that grew, we really saw a lot of the Mariner growth come in. Big movers from last year, though. We got the Mets at 14-1 right now, and Red Sox at 16-1.
Interesting.
So, yeah, baseball to me is it's always like, at least lately, it seems to be the really big markets, and that's good for money.
So, yeah, no doubt. So So for you, it's NFL, college football. What comes after? Is it March Madness? What's third after those 2?
March Madness is third in terms of like total money wagered and handle and everything. And then I'd say UFC pay-per-view events in terms of pay-per-view. Like how big the crowd is.
Yeah.
That would be probably third in that
Is
category.
March Madness big enough to give you an opportunity to make back some of the money you lost on Super Bowl? Or do you have to wait until football season?
It's big enough to make some of it back. The hard thing with March Madness, though, is there's so many games, and it's so much betting on the spread. So you're not having these huge wins, and every time that you do win as a book, you still have to pay out the other side, regardless of what game it is. So it's harder because it's not just one winner take all type of event for the sports book, but it does give us a chance to at least get a good chunk of that back.
All right, good. Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino. All UFC fights, pay-per-view, shown here in the casino in the BetMGM Sportsbook. You can wager on that, and we've got the NCAA tournament right around the corner. And then, unfortunately for all of us, we have to wait another 6-7 months for football, man. It's a drag, Justin.
I know.
I mean, baseball is – I love baseball, but it's just – football brings a certain vibe and intensity that nothing compares to it.
Yeah, I think, having I think having to wait the whole week too for like a game, like it just builds up, you know. Whereas baseball, you kind of take it for granted that every day there's going to be one.
How many do you get a lot of action on the when it comes to the draft? Do you take a lot of bets on the draft or not so much?
Not too much. When I spent some time in Vegas, we would have a lot more draft action and just interest. You know, this. I remember when I worked at Mandalay Bay, we'd literally put the draft on the big screen in the sports book, and we'd have 30, 40, 50 people in there.
Wow.
And I specifically remember working when Daniel Jones was drafted by the Giants, and if you remember, he was kind of this unknown, like, who did they just take? And I still to this day remember people standing up, screaming, you know, F words, cussing out the TV.
Yeah,
and it's
they're
like,
so ticked off.
This is crazy that this is just for an NFL draft, you know, this kind of environment. So a little different out there.
That's great. Yeah, my buddy Travis, voice of the Blazers, we did a show together for years, and we were doing the show together that night when they drafted Daniel Jones. And he's from New York, you know. That's where that's where he grew up. So he was. They're going to draft Daniel Jones. It's a big bleep of mistake. And then when they drafted him, man, he like ripped his headset off. I was like, they're going to mark my words. They're going to live to regret this. And he wasn't exactly wrong about that.
No, but yeah, it's just funny when
Jet fans boo.
Yeah.
You know, Philly fans are crazy.
Yeah, NFL is just its own beast, you know.
But West Coast, like, you know, you grew up, down in Cali, Orange County, like, people a little more casual about their reactions sometimes to sports compared to, like, East Coast hardcore fans.
Yeah. And I don't want to necessarily say, like, they're more fair weather, but it's, I'm going to go out to dinner tonight instead of watch the game. You know, the team's 500. Yeah,
I got better options.
Exactly. I don't know.
Well, thank you for coming on, my friend. I appreciate you, and we look forward to March Madness. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thank you as well.
All right, Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager here for Spear Mountain Casino. We'll keep things rolling. Brian No, Fox Sports Radio at 5:20, and Michelle Jalali of the Trailblazers at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive. Another nice chat, my friend. All right, this, of course, is Don Johnson. And for those of you who are younger, he basically owned the 1980s. And this song here went to number 5 on the U.S. Billboard charts. It is titled Heartbeat. He was the man, the super stud from Miami Vice. And it's funny because I think Curtis Long and I were talking about this song the other night. We were listening to it during our Trailblazer pregame show because he and I love pulling up, retro songs from that time period. And if you pull up this video on YouTube, one of the comments directly below the video says this man literally had the 1980s by the balls. And it's true, he did. I mean, it's hard to find a bigger star than Don Johnson from the 1980s. And I just love these actors turned singers who put out hit songs. Eddie Murphy had a number 1 song. Don Johnson went to number 5 with Heartbeat. And there were many others who did the same thing. Don Johnson, Heartbeat. I think he's from Wichita, Kansas, if memory serves correct. Don Johnson. Yeah. It goes back to that, halftime show at the Super Bowl. The NFL does not want me to choose the halftime act. It's not going to happen. They don't want that. They're not targeting me. And, they can choose whoever they want. They want to go with Bad Bunny or whoever. It makes no difference to me because I'm going to watch the game. I'm hooked as an NFL fan for life, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So they can do their thing. And I don't even think it was the NFL as much as it was Apple Music, who is a big-time sponsor with the league now. And they kind of are in charge of that halftime show. And I think Apple Music used Bad Bunny strategically to help grow their music business because they want people to download and buy their music. It's pretty simple. Don Johnson. He's 76 years old now, for crying out loud. I do think at one time he was married to Melanie Griffith, too. And she was a gem back in the day. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out to me and jump on board if you'd like. We're going to hear a couple of comments from Lamar Hurd, who joined me earlier this week. We'll get his take on, let's see here, turnovers, which he believes are, the biggest thing that's plaguing them right now that they need to solve or improve as they continue to move forward, and also get his thoughts on Denny Avdia budding into a superstar in the NBA. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him play basketball in the All-Star game this weekend. I'm so happy for Denny. I just love the guy. I love watching him play. I love his story, how hard he works, the type of player he's become, and he's only 25 years old. And I also want good things for him because of all the anti-Semitic fools out there who just go after this guy nonstop on social media. And he's got an opportunity, which is big. Unlike many players, he's playing for one country, the entire state of Israel, and the Jewish people who love him and adore him. He's like a beacon of light for them. And the best Israeli basketball player of all time. So Denny Avdia, we'll see Young Hansen and Donovan Clingan in the Rising Stars Challenge. And then, of course, I'll be pulling for Dame. Of all the things I want to watch, of course I want to see Denny in the All-Star game, but that product as a whole is pretty much unwatchable. But I do want to see Dame win the three-point competition and get his 3rd title. I just think it's cool he's competing. I mentioned this before. I think Dame's in that contest because he's just jonesing to get off on something. And speaking of number 1 songs, how about Eddie Murphy? My Girl Likes to Party All the Time. This guy also, like Don had 1 ball. He had the 1980s by 1 ball, and Eddie Murphy had it by the other ball. The two of them were megastars. And Eddie Murphy's like, remember, this is a bet. In fact, I'll give you the details on that. I still think Richard Pryor, I don't think he paid Eddie Murphy. He owes him. I'll tell you why. We'll get to that. Michelle Jalali going to join us from the Trailblazers and talk about a big week coming up with the Trailblazers. And then Brian Noe at 520. He's on a magical mystery tour of college basketball. I'll give you the details on that. He'll join us at 520. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, it's 4 o'clock. Chad here. The Trailblazers head into the All-Star break winning 4 of their last 5 games. Portland put up 40 points in the third quarter last night to defeat the Jazz. Donovan Clingan was awesome. 23 points, 18 boards, 7 assists. Drew Holiday had 31 points, 9 boards, 7 assists. Next game, 1 week from tonight, they'll host the Denver Nuggets. Tip-off from Moda Center at 7 o'clock. Trailblazers sit at 27 and 29, 10th in the West, 26 games to play. And this weekend, the team's going to be well represented at All-Star Weekend in Los Angeles. Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen in the Rising Stars Challenge. Dame looking for his third three-point shooting contest title. And Deni Avdija in his first All-Star game. Elsewhere, Chris Paul announced his retirement after 21 seasons in the NBA. The Jazz fined $500,000. The Pacers $100G for resting players. I'm going to be joined by Brian Noel, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. Yeah, I think Brian Noel is traveling around checking out some different college basketball venues. I think he just purchased a ticket for Cameron Indoor, so we'll get details on that. And I was texting with him this week. He went to Lawrence, Kansas and saw the Jayhawks in person. And so we'll find out where his basketball tour is going to take him, and we'll get his take on that. And we'll also recap the Super Bowl and take a look ahead to the offseason and some of the different stuff that's coming up. So Brian Noel, Fox Sports Radio 520. We'll preview the upcoming week that the Trailblazers have with their HBCU to the pros with Michelle Jalali. She's going to join me here in 20 minutes. And outside of that, I'm just hanging out at the BetMGM Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino and, looking forward to a week off. The Blazer season, I enjoy it, and I love watching basketball and being around the team. But it's a grind. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of long hours. And with the back-to-backs and everything going on, it's one big blur for like 6 months. And so this is an opportunity to regroup, get a little bit of rest, and reset the dome before the final 26 games launch next Friday with the Denver Nuggets coming to town. The cool thing about the Blazers this year, I'll give you right now, I'll tell you what my best-case scenario, what my hope or dream is for them in terms of what I would like to see happen the rest of the way. They're going to be in the play-in at the very least, so that's cool because we're going to get a chance to see them in some type of postseason play, which is going to be good for the young players to get that type of experience, and they're going to be playing more meaningful games than what they're accustomed to with the final 26 that are coming up because they're going to have some big games that they're going to have to find a way to navigate and win as they continue to jockey for position with the play-in. So right now in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City's number 1. I would expect them to remain there. They're 3 games ahead of San Antonio, who is second. Denver's third, followed by Houston. And then the Lakers and Timberwolves round out the top 6. Lakers and T-Wolves right now are tied for that 5th and 6th spot. Now, keep in mind, teams 7 through 10 are going to be a part of the play-in. Right now, Phoenix is 7th. They're a game and a half out behind the Lakers and Minnesota for 6th. Golden State is 8th. They're 4.5 games behind Minnesota and the Lakers for 6th. The Trailblazers are 9th. They're 7 games out from that 6th spot, which guarantees you a spot in the playoffs. And the Clippers, the same. They, too, are 15 games back. So the Blazers and Clippers are evened up for that 9th and 10th spot in the Western Conference. So I would say this. This is what I'm hoping for. I don't think the Blazers can make up the ground necessary to get into the top 6 between now and the end of the season. It's possible, but not likely. So that means they're going to be a part of the play-in, which means you're going to have to win a game or 2 to become a part of the 8 seeds in the Western Conference to be a playoff team. So here's what I'm hoping for. The Blazers right now sit in 9th. They are 2.5 games behind Golden State, who is in 8th. The advantage of being able to jump into the 7th or 8th spot is that you only need to win one game to get into the playoffs. And if you were to get into the 7-8 spot and win that first game, you would advance and be the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Now, the reason why I think the 7th seed is appealing is because more than likely you're going to take on the San Antonio Spurs in the 2-7 matchup. Now, San Antonio obviously is ridiculously talented, and they've got Victor Wembanyama, but the one thing they share in common with the Trailblazers is that it's not a experienced playoff team. The majority of guys on that roster, like the Blazers roster, the key core, don't have playoff experience. So it would be a lot of fun to see the Blazers and Spurs in a first-round matchup in the Western Conference, a 7-game series, and see if you can put a scare into Victor Wembanyama and that group. If you play and work your way into the 8th spot, you're going to play Oklahoma City. And while that would be fun, I think we know what the result of that series would be. Oklahoma City, to me, compared to every other team in the NBA, is just on a different level. They're that much better than everyone else. They're the defending champs. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have incredible length. They play great defense. They're just a terrific basketball team. So ideally, you wouldn't want to face them. So keep in mind, just for future reference in your domes, this is how it works for the play-in. Once the top 10 spots are set in the Western Conference, the 7 and 8 seed would match up in a game. So right now it would be Phoenix and Golden State. They would play. The winner of that game would become the 7th seed. The loser of that game would then play the winner of the 9-10 matchup. So right now the Trailblazers would host the LA Clippers, and if the Blazers won that game, they would play the loser of Phoenix and Golden State to determine who would become the 8th seed in the Western Conference. So in short, I'm hoping the Blazers can work their way up to 7th or 8th in the West and have one game to get in and become the 7th seed in the Western Conference. That is my hope. That's what I want to see happen, and it would be exciting. But in any event, the Blazers are going to be in the play-in, and we're going to get some postseason experience. But most importantly, 26 games to go. They're going to play in some big games down the stretch, and they're going to get some good experience for the young guys on the roster who haven't had a chance to playing meaningful basketball games like that based on, the transition that the franchise has been in their rebuild over the last few years. But that's where we're at. That's what we're looking at, and I'm excited about where the team is at. It's been fun this year because we're seeing the development of these guys. They're starting to get healthy, and when healthy, I think this team can be, as Denny Avdia put it the other night, dangerous. And that's really what you want. You want this team to be dangerous, right? I certainly do. So the big question is, what does this group need to work on the most in the final 26 to get to where they want to be? I had Lamar Hurd on the show this week, and he talked about the turnovers, which, of course, they're the worst in the league. The turnovers have been a problem throughout the course of the year. They were minus 27 in points off turnovers in the loss to Minnesota this week. They've got to be better at securing the basketball.
Turnovers, to me, would be the bigger one out of the examples you named. And the reason for that is because the turnovers, the turnovers were to be expected, even with a healthy lineup, just because of the speed alone, the pace of play that they want to play at. Like, they started the season wanting to even run after the opponent made a basket. Usually in basketball parlance, people say, well, you got to get a stop in order to run. And they were bucking the trend. So with that, they knew, okay, there's going to be some times where a team goes on a 6-0 run, and we're telling our guys, still get it out the net and go, where some teams might say, okay, hey, let's take a deep breath, let's calm down. They're saying, no, we're going to get it out and go. And even if that means we turn it over once or twice or a couple times after that, we will figure out eventually how to play at that speed. So that's one thing I'm looking for with them, is that as they recommit to this speed and pace of play, that they are able to take care of the basketball. Because the other things you mentioned, especially the drop coverage, is like that's more correctable and controllable. Like the turnovers aren't always going to be controllable because they'll play defenses that no matter how much you focus on protecting the ball, they got some good defenders and they can turn you over too. But in terms of the drop coverage and different alignments defensively, that's all under the Blazers' control. So I feel a lot better about that and want to see how they handle the turnovers.
All right, you got to be better with the turnovers. Now, you want the team to play fast, And that means you're going to give up some turnovers in that process because you want guys to play loose and fast, much like we saw with the Warriors for years with Steve Kerr and that, 4-time title team they had. But the Blazers got to tighten it up in that department. And the problem is, too, has been the continuity. You need the guys to be on the floor together for an extended stretch so they get a better feel for one another. One other quick note on Donovan Clingan. He was awesome last night, 23 points, 18 boards, 7 assists. That game last night at Utah is his 21st points/rebounds double-double this season, tied for 10th most in the NBA. Clingan has an NBA-leading 14 games of 15-plus rebounds this season. Man, that guy is balling his ass off. What a draft pick that was. And while he's still struggling defensively because teams are going small now and trying to put him in space, I thought he did a great job of responding to the 2 rough games he had against both Cleveland and Phoenix. I mean, the guy, you know what's great about Donovan Clingan? He works his ass off. He wants to win. He is not one of those guys that is just using it as because it sounds nice. When he says he wants to win and is willing to do whatever it takes to do that, he'll do it. He's great. I'm a big fan of Donovan Clingan. Rim protection, terrific. Rebounding has been great. He's really good on the offensive glass. Donovan Clingan has made tremendous growth from year 1 to year number 2, which is great. So there you have it. My good friend, Dr. Mike, has reached out. Great explanation of the play-in matchups. Nice time to set the table for fans. I appreciate that, buddy. It took me a while to get used to the play-in format and how that worked, but now I've got it solved in my mind. My sports mind allows me to figure out sports things quicker than other situations in my life. Like poor Puppy Shots not feeling well, and I figured out finally what it was. I think he was constipated. And I've gotten reports from my daughter that he is taking care of business, so to speak, and he's starting to feel better. But I don't like it when I see the little guy not feeling well. But there you have it. The Blazers, they're in a good spot right now. They're just, I mean, you suffered through a few years of rebuild, and now we're starting to see some of the fruits of that. Tamani Kamara, he's doing, what did Coach Splitter say the other night? We're seeing this now. He's shooting the 3 ball much better. They don't like it when he catches the ball and does that little jab step and then shoots. They want him to catch and then go straight up and release the ball. We're starting to see that. He's shooting the ball better. Scoot Henderson, I thought, was terrific again last night. He's looking pretty comfortable on the offensive end, shooting the ball pretty well. He's only been back for a few games, so he'll be great down the stretch. Donovan Clingan has been a beast this year. Denny Avdia is in the All-Star game. Yeah, the young guys and now Shaden Sharp starting to emerge. So the young core is looking really good. Vit Krejci, in a small sample size, the Blazers' offense has been pretty much off the charts when he's on the floor. I think like at 121 points per 100 possessions. That's because of the spacing he provides, or as the kids say these days, the gravity he brings to the floor, because you have to respect him because he can shoot the 3, and so it opens up the floor for other guys, like Denny Avdia to work off penetration. So, yeah, a lot of things to be excited about, for the Blazers. And they got tools to work with to improve their roster come summertime. So, yeah, I like it. I like this group. And they got good character guys. It is a good group, like this locker room, because a lot of people will ask me, like, they really appear to like each other. They do. This team gets along really well. There's a lot of guys who are on this team that are close friends. You don't have any of the there's no misfits that I'm aware of. I think this is just a group of guys that likes to work and play together. And Tiago Splitter, I've got more thoughts on him. He's doing a heck of a job in terms of getting buy-in from the players, but also is a terrific communicator. My guess would be it's because he's not too far removed from the game, so he knows how to communicate with NBA players to get their attention and get the most out of them. All right, we'll take a look at the HBCU to the pros. Big week coming up for the Trailblazers. Michelle Jalali, the director of DEI with the team, is going to join me next. And then Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 5:20. I hope you're enjoying your Friday. Got the Rip City Drive live from the BetMGM Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, this is going to be a big week for your Portland Trailblazers. They're hosting their third annual HBCU to the Pros presented by Alaska Airlines. It's going to be a full weekend with the game and festivities, which will kick off on Thursday, February 19th, running through Saturday, February 21st. And joining us again on the Rib City Drive is the senior DEI official with the Trailblazers, Michelle Jalali. Michelle, good afternoon. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So before we get to the big week coming up for the Trailblazers with HBCU to the Pros, you've got options this weekend. We've got Young Hansen and Donovan Clingan in the Rising Stars Challenge. Damian Lillard surprised us all. He's going to go back and compete in the three-point shooting competition. And then Denny Avdia in his first All-Star game. So Blazer fans, we got plenty of options to sit back and see the franchise well represented. I love it.
Oh, my gosh, it's going to be such an exciting weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. So I want to talk to you about what you've got coming up this week. First off, HBCU to the Pros. This is going to be your third annual event. So how did you and your team develop the concept and the idea to bring this to Portland and to support it with the Trailblazers and Alaska Airlines?
It's so crazy to even think about this being our third year doing this. But for the third year in the row, you know, we're collaborating with Alaska Airlines, and, you know, we really wanted to prioritize bringing the culture and traditions of Black history and of HBCUs to Portland. And, you know, Portland is the NBA team that's farthest away from any HBCU, so it made it especially important that we educated our Black and brown youth and really prioritized bringing authentic representation here.
That is terrific. Now, for those who are listening that may not be as familiar, what exactly are HBCUs?
HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities, and starting in the 1800s, they've been created and upheld to provide unique education and support for Black students. And this is so exciting to be able to think through how to bring that energy and to bring that tradition and culture to Portland. And so I can't believe that in a couple of days, we will be taking it to a new level by bringing that HBCU swag to Portland with not only one, but two HBCU bands visiting Portland this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about because I love the classic bands, and I believe this year you're going to welcome in Prairie View A&M University Marching Storm Band from Texas and Southern University Human Jukebox from Louisiana. So what are your plans with the two bands that are coming in?
Yes, we have the best of the best joining us, and they'll have a jam-packed weekend. They will arrive, and starting off, we'll tip off on Thursday with a free event at Portland Community College Cascade Gym, where the bands are going to get their first performance alongside other performers. You'll be out there with Divine Nine members, some local community groups, and that will be the first touchdown that we will have with our bands performing for community. And then we move into Friday, which, as you know, is our HBCU to the Pros game. Before the game even starts, we're having an HBCU legacy mixer for high school students to connect with HBCU alumni and Divine Nine members, fraternity and sorority members, and to chat about what the experience has felt like attending an HBCU or being a member of a historically Black fraternity or sorority. We'll kick off the game, and it's going to be so fun because you'll be seeing, you know, the band for the anthem, for halftime, a few other surprises in there too. And then on Saturday, because we obviously need to have as many options as possible on Saturday, we'll start off the bands with our final event where we'll actually be collaborating with Self-Enhancement, Inc. A lot of folks know SEI, an incredible nonprofit who's hosting their Culture and Commerce event. And so the Blazers and Alaska will take part in there. We'll bring the bands there as well for another performance.
That is awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of Tony Hobson Sr. from the Center for Self-Enhancement. He's doing terrific work. And I wanted to ask you, you know, you mentioned this being the third year, and I've been very impressed, but what's been the overall reaction from people in the community and even some of the sponsors and people involved? Are they happy with what this has become? What are the reaction you're getting, Michelle?
You know what? I would say it's pretty positive because the first year we did this, it was a one-day event, and now it has transformed into an entire three-day celebration weekend. Like our fans, our community, our youth, they want more, they deserve more. And so it's been really an honor to work with Alaska to make it happen. And on top of that, you know, if we are bringing out these incredibly talented young people to represent their colleges, we got to give them as much exposure as possible. And it's been received really, really well. So we're just continuing to build it up every single year and lead in a lot of ways in doing so.
You know, it's amazing. You mentioned the performances. I'm excited for the halftime performance at the game, which will be on Friday against Denver. But, you know, there really is something different about these two bands in particular. But the energy and the effort that they put into their music and their marching band is off the charts. But the great thing is, it's not just the music, but the effort they put into a performance. They're so well synced up in how they perform. There really is nothing like it in terms of what I've seen.
It's really true. I mean, you have the best of the best when it comes to these marching bands, and the practice, the rehearsal they put in, the emphasis they place on excellence. I mean, they've truly put on a performance, and having double the energy and double the sound this year, I feel like it's just going to take it to an entire new level. Folks are going to be super pumped to listen to the loud music, to see and feel the energy. And I think you'll feel that at every single one of the events, especially during halftime in the arena.
We're talking to Michelle Jalali, the Senior Director of DEI with the Portland Trailblazers. With the people you've talked to around the league, obviously this is all the efforts of Black History Month. How proud of you to be able to work with the NBA and the other teams throughout the course of the month to bring great attention to such important causes?
You know, it's funny because we celebrate our diverse communities that make up Rip City throughout the entire year, but there's something really special about rallying together in February to continue to highlight and take things to the next level. And the league does such an incredible job at placing emphasis on HBCUs, on Black and Brown youth, on opportunities for folks to become more connected and educated on different educational options. And so to engage the league, and we've had HBCU interns in the past. We have consistent relationships with our Black lettered organizations in Portland. It's just a continued emphasis of why this is so important and the ways in which when we work together and collaborate, it can become bigger and better every single year.
You know, Michelle, someone told me this, and I didn't know this, but it's kind of interesting based on the work that you've done with this weekend. But is Portland the furthest team away from any HBCU in the entire NBA?
Yes, it is, which makes it kind of ironic and also kind of perfect that we do such a great job of making sure to bring authentic representation to Portland, because it'd be so easy to just say, oh, it's so far, let's just not do it. But for us, we lean in even more to make sure that it feels authentic, there's great energy, that there's great access to the bands coming here, and that a ton of different community partners and nonprofits are involved in the weekend and have access to meeting and engaging with folks from the league, folks from Alaska, and of course our band members too.
All right, Michelle, for those who are listening, if they want to get involved and partake in any of the events on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or maybe all 3 days, what is the best place for people to go to get information to be able to partake?
Well, definitely follow us on social media because we'll be posting fun content and more information about each of the events coming up this week. But also, if you want to get a snapshot of everything that's happening for the week, trailblazers.com/HBCU will have all of the information on the game as well as all the other events that are happening before and after.
You know, I was curious for you, Michelle, because you're involved in this so deeply. Like, over the last 3 years, like, what is something that you've learned that maybe you didn't know, or maybe someone you've met, or something that's really inspired you that you've learned through this process in your now moving into your third annual HBCU to the Pros?
You know what? I think that one of the things that I already knew but really has been important to remind myself and showcase and talk about more is that there are such incredible Black leaders in Portland who are HBCU alum, members of Divine Nine organizations that are so excited to come out and share their experiences too. And they're leaders in nonprofits and corporations and just across Portland and beyond. And that is something that should be celebrated and continue to be spotlighted. And on top of that, when these bands come into town, honestly, I'll tell you, there is nothing like it. The energy is incredible. And so when you combine that local excellence with that out-of-town flair, the weekend just continues to be exceptional. And it's something that I want to continue to celebrate every single year.
All right, that's perfect. Now, Michelle, is there anything else that you want to get out to the Blazer fans and other people in Rib City? Is this pretty much everything, or is there any other details you want to get out?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, all I will say is you don't want to miss this weekend. Make sure you come out to all of the events. Every single event has its own kind of unique vibe to it, but the game itself is going to be beautiful. It's going to be impactful. Come out and support the HBCUs, support local youth, and, of course, the nonprofits that are doing the great work to prioritize sending their own students to HBCUs as well.
That's perfect. It's all going to kick off on Thursday, which, of course, is the 19th. HBCU to the community event at 4:30 is hosted at the PCC Cascade Gym. And can people just show up at the Cascade Gym for that event?
Yes, just show up. It is open and free to all.
That is awesome. All right, Michelle Jalali, Senior Director of DEI with the Portland Trail Blazers. And, Michelle, I appreciate your time. I really love the work that you guys are doing, and big credit for Alaska Airlines for being great supporters of this. But I'm excited for this weekend, and I can't wait to see the performances.
It's going to be a blast. I look forward to it, too. And thanks so much for having me.
You got it. Anytime. You're always welcome. Michelle Jalali, Senior Director of DEI with the Trailblazers. The big event coming up this week, HBCU to the Pros game and weekend event series. It kicks off Thursday at the PCC Cascade Gym. You can see the band's first performance alongside other local performers and tabling with Divine Nine sororities and fraternities. And then you got the game with the Nuggets on Friday. They'll have the pregame HBCU Legacy Mixer and HBCU to the Pros game. Nuggets are in town. They're going to do a halftime performance. And then on Saturday, SEI's Culture and Commerce Market from 11 to 3, hosted by Tony Hobson Sr. from Center for Self-Enhancement. Blazers in Alaska will take part in highlighting local black businesses alongside the NBA Foundation tabling universities and Alaska flight simulators. And this will be the band's final performance to close out the weekend. So there you have it. Michelle Jalali, Portland Trail Blazers. And what a heck of a game to have that on, too, with the Denver Nuggets. That's going to be a great game to kick off the stretch run with Denver coming up a week from tonight. I did have a question that came to me on social media last night in regards to Tiago Splitter. And it was just someone wanting to know my thoughts on Tiago and the work that he's done. He said, Chad, it's been a while. This came from Cody Palmer. He said, Chad, it's been a while since I've tweeted you. What do you think of Tiago versus the other coaches we've had in the past? Overall, seems like a pretty good coach. Well, I'll say this about Tiago Splitter. As I mentioned, when he first got the nod to become the acting head coach, when our head coach to start the year was taken away by the FBI, that's still bizarre to say. Hey, what happened to your head coach? Oh, yeah, the FBI took him away. Okay, that's cool. Anyways, Tiago stepped in, let's just say, in not ideal circumstances. But I credit Chauncey for having the understanding that he needed to upgrade his coaching staff because his team was ready to go to the next level. And so what a great hire that was to bring in Tiago. Now, what I had been told was that Tiago, there were a lot of people around the league that thought Tiago had a chance to become a really good coach based on his demeanor, his smarts, and his experience. And that was early in the season. But from what I've uncovered so far this year, he is obviously great in working with big men. Just take a look at some of the progress that we've seen with some of the guys on the roster like Donovan Clingan. He is, from what I've been told, an excellent communicator to the players, so he knows how to communicate with them in a way to get the most out of them, to help them understand their role, what they need to do, and what he's looking for from them. My guess would be that when you're not too far removed from the NBA, you have an understanding of how those guys think, what they feel, what it's like being an NBA player. So, he can, communicate and connect with them in a way that's necessary. And then also, this is important, but he has no problems getting on them and being intense when he has to be intense. Young guys, what I've learned from the majority of great athletes that I've had a chance to talk to and be around, most of them like to be coached hard. And they're used to being coached hard. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. So he's not afraid to get on their ass when they need someone to get on their ass. And let's face it, like, I love this team, but there's times when you're like, what are you guys doing out there? What kind of a defensive effort is that? Why do you guys hate protecting the basketball so much? You know, there's times where the guys just driving crazy, or guys, not taking the shot when it's there, maybe not rotating the ball or moving the basketball the way they're supposed to, not playing under control, whatever the case may be. The slow starts, coming out a little lethargic, the stuff that just drives coaches crazy. He's not afraid to get on those guys, but he does it in a way, he's not trying to shame the guys. He waits till they get behind closed doors in practice and he lights them up. So they need discipline. He brings that too. But I think what's most impressive is how he's gotten buy-in. And I think probably the best example of that would be Jeremy Grant. I mean, you just listen to Jeremy Grant at, media days. He wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of coming off the bench. He knew that the team was looking to deal him. They couldn't get a deal done, and he comes back and it's like, hey, we want you to come off the bench. Well, Tiago Splitter has gotten buy-in from Jeremy Grant. And as a result, Jeremy Grant is having his best season as a Trailblazer. In fact, I've been very impressed with Grant. His attitude, his approach, the way he's handled everything, he's been great. Now, again, he's had a chance to start a number of games with all the guys out of the lineup, but he bought in. He bought into the role, and he's played terrific ball. And you got to give Tiago Splitter credit for that. I think also one thing that Tiago Splitter's done a good job of, based on what I have learned from guys who deal with the coaches all the time, is that, there's a good open line of communication between he and the assistant coaches, all of their assistants. He empowers them. There's synergy there, and so it all works together. Now, what does that mean for the future? I have no idea. I think Tiago Splitter's got a chance to become a great coach. They also have a new owner coming in. What does he want to do? Do you extend him? Do you make him the full-time head coach? I don't know what the answer is to that. All I know is that Tiago Splitter has put himself in a position where, whether it's here in Portland or somewhere else, he's going to get an opportunity to coach. That much I'm certain of. And I'm down with the guy. I like him. I like his demeanor and the way he carries himself. He's a cool cat. But most importantly, he gets guys to buy in. And what have we learned from Greg Popovich over the years? What is the most difficult thing as a coach or for players? It's role acceptance. To know your role and to accept the role and then go out and execute according to that. Because there's a lot of guys in the league who have flamed out quickly because they didn't understand their role. They didn't buy into their role. They didn't accept their role, and they were too busy trying to showcase the other things they thought were important. Sometimes just knowing how your skill set fits the team that you're on and then going out and applying that to help your team win games, sometimes that's the best way to go about carving out a long and, very prosperous career in the NBA. But a lot of guys don't get that. Maybe it's because they don't get the direction of the coaching. Maybe they're too arrogant to understand what they are as players. It depends on the guy. But Tiago Splitter has gotten buy-in, and that's important because that shows they respect his voice. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, Talking Ball, coming up at 5:20. Sorry about that. I thought my mic was off. I just cleared my throat like an amateur. This is classic. Adam Schefter just tweeted out sources. The NFL informed all 32 teams today in a memo that it prevailed in its grievance against the NFLPA and its, quote, team report cards. An arbitrator determined that the NFLPA's conduct violated the CBA and ordered it to stop making public any future report cards. That's amazing. The NFL has so much power. You know, that's the report cards that the players put out from each of their teams on, you know, workout facilities, game day operations, how well they take care of their families, the food that's provided, the whole shebang. And, of course, some of the teams that get regularly just destroyed, like the Arizona Cardinals and some of the other scrub franchises that charge their players for all these different things, they don't want that stuff being aired out in public. So the NFL went to an arbitrator and got that shut down. Nice work, NFL. That's called power right there. Now, I did not know this, but apparently, well, I'll get to that in just a moment. Apparently, they're having a crisis at the Winter Olympics in the form of a condom shortage. But I have asked my daughter to stop sending me pictures of Puppy Shots feeling better. She thinks it's funny that she's sending me pictures of Puppy Shots dookie in the yard. And she's literally giggling over it. She thinks it's funny. I'm glad that he's feeling better, but I don't need to see graphic pictures of the progress. Just tell me that he's getting better and that he's taking care of business. That's all. But, you know, teenage kids, they can't help themselves. I'm going to take a picture of that and send it to Dad. Thank you, honey. I really appreciate that. All right, this is from the New York Times, nonetheless. I love this article, too, from Denny Alfonso. She writes, free protection for Olympic athletes is nothing new, but when the supply runs out before the first week of the Games is in the books, it is bound to make headlines. According to the Italian outlet La Stampa, the complimentary condoms distributed inside the Olympic Village in Cortina were gone in a matter of days, 3 to be exact. That's a problem. Quote, the supplies ran out in just 3 days, an anonymous athlete told the newspaper. They promised more will arrive, but who knows when. And Denny goes on to say, the situation becomes even more striking when stacked against the numbers from Paris 2024. In the French capital, often dubbed the, quote, city of love, organizers handed out approximately 300,000 condoms. That figure was confirmed in an interview with Sky News by Lornette Michaud, director of the Athletes Village during the Summer Games. By contrast, the allocation for these Winter Games was dramatically smaller. As reported by La Stampa, fewer than 10,000 were made available. There are 2,871 athletes in Italy for the Winter Games, while there were a little more than 10,500 athletes in France for the 2024 Summer Games. Many of the athletes are staying in Milan. The debate over availability intensified last week when Attilio Fontana, governor of Italy's Lombardy region, publicly addressed the topic. Quote, yes, we provide free condoms to athletes in the Olympic Village. Fontana's remarks underscored what has long been standard protocol at the Games. Quote, if this seems strange to some, they're unaware of the established Olympic practice. It began in Seoul of 1988 to raise awareness among athletes and young people about sexually transmitted disease prevention, a topic that shouldn't cause embarrassment. This time, however, it isn't the tradition making news, it's the shortage. So there you go. The Olympic athletes have burned through 10,000 condoms in 3 days. I guess I can't really think of a better way to blow off some steam before a big race, a big downhill event. You know, you got to let off some steam. You know, get these athletes what they need, dang it. That's crazy to me. The Olympic Village. I'd like to go. I've never covered an Olympics before. It'd be fun to check out. But the Olympics, I would say for the Winter Olympics, like I was into the Lindsey Vonn story before the leg injury because I like her and I love the fact. I love seeing older athletes, you know, pushing themselves to the brink to see if they can overcome a challenge and be able to compete on that level. Like I love that story. I'm just not as into the Olympic Games as I am like the Summer Games. And I'm excited about the summer games coming up in Los Angeles. And I like the gymnastics. I'm excited about the flag football. I like the basketball. Aside from hockey, there just aren't too many things I really, cling towards when it comes to the winter games. The ski jumping and some of that stuff's kind of fun, but I don't know. Whatever. The Olympics, I'm more into the Summer Olympics is what I'm trying to say. But I do like the hockey. But the summer games, the basketball, the flag football is going to be interesting. Track and field, like that kind of stuff is nice. I went down to Hayward. I think it was around 2008. I think they had the trials down there, and I had a chance to see some of the events live in person. Like, that was awesome. And Eugene's one of the best places to do it. But to see that and see the athletes out there competing, like, that was a lot of fun. But I've never had a chance to cover the Olympic Games. I take some interest in the skiing events because I used to ski a lot when I lived in Colorado. But, the Olympic Games are just not something that I'm really into. Some of the figure skating is nice. I still can't believe some of the things that they can do. I enjoy the luge is very interesting to me. I think guys strapping themselves to that sled and just rolling down the track is crazy to me at high speeds. Like, it takes some intestinal fortitude to be able to pull that kind of stuff off. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We're going to hear one more take from Lamar Hurd. I'll get to that coming up here at 5. Talking about Deni Avdija and the fact that he's now a budding superstar in the NBA. A lot of people are taking notice now in terms of Deni and what he's capable of. And I'm excited for him on this stretch run. It was also nice to see him come back this week and, closer to 100% with more movement in the back, having a chance to give that some rest, just so he's got better mobility out there on the court. Really impressed with Deni. And as it's been described to me, if you look at the way he's played this year, like, there's a lot of complexity that goes to the role he's in as the primary facilitator. So he's having to piece these things together in his mind. So there's a lot of mental work for him. But then physically, the way he plays, the way he's able to attack the rim, that gather motion where he's able to get to the foul line, he just continues to get better and better. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll hear a bit from Lamar Hurd. And then we got Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 5:20. I do appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. And my thoughts and prayers for the Olympic Village right now. I hope you can find a way to survive with the shortage. You can reach out to me on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528, 503-248-0620, the telephone number. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 520. All right, the Trailblazers head into the All-Star break winning 4 of their last 5. They topped the Jazz last night. They put up 40 points in the third to get the job done. Donovan Clingan, 23 points, 18 boards, and 7 assists. Jrue Holiday with 31. They'll get a week off. They host the Nuggets 1 week from tonight at Moda Center. That game will tip off at 7. The Trailblazers are 27-29, 10th in the West with 26 games to play this week, and the Blazers will be well represented at All-Star Weekend. Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen, Rising Stars Challenge. Dame is looking for his 3rd title in the three-point shooting contest, and Denny Avdia is in his first All-Star game. Chris Paul has announced his retirement after 21 years in the NBA, and the league came down hard on the Jazz, who were fined $500,000 for arresting players. The Pacers fined $100,000. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join me on the Rip City Drive coming up at 5:20. You know, it's pretty cool. I heard from my buddy in Denver, Ryan Edwards, who works on our sister station, 850 KOA. So former Bronco Shelby Harris, who's been with the Browns the last few seasons, he joins them and does radio with them during the offseason, which is really cool. And Shelby was on KOA yesterday, and he wanted to know the name of a song that he had been looking for, but all he could do was hum it, and he didn't know the name of it because it had no words. And so he was humming it on the show, and a listener, Scott, was able to text in and tell him the name of the song. And the name of the song was Moments in Love by Art of Noise. Now, I've never heard of the song, but I can relate to that situation. How many of you, raise your hand, have you been in this situation where you've got a song that's in your head and you can't piece together the words, but you know how the tune sounds in your head, but you don't know the name of the song, so you can't do like a Google search or whatever? It just drives me crazy. And so that happened to me today. That's why technology, some of these things are really cool. Like I love Shazam. You know, it's the app where you can, you know, tap it and it will pick up what song you're listening to. Like if you're in a restaurant or you're out in public or whatever, it will pick up on the song and then it will tell you the title. And then you can go and download it or whatever the case may be. But I think that's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. So this happened to me yesterday. I was in Studio C after the Blazer game, and I was putting together my post-game wrap and all that stuff. And Rich Patterson, when he leaves, he turns on his music station there inside of Studio C, and it plays, you know, just constant music. And there was a song that came on, and I've heard the song, but I didn't know the band or the name of the song, and so I Shazammed it, and it was Digging Your Seam by the Blow Monkeys. And it's a great song. Haven't heard it in a long time, but had it not been for Shazam, I would have never been able to get the name of the song and download it. And so now I'm able to get that in my rotation. I like the song. I guess I could have come on today and hummed it to you guys and see if anyone out there could know the name of the song, but that's pretty awesome. So what Shelby Harris did for this guy that hooked him up with the name of the song is he swung by his crib and hooked him up with an old Bronco jersey. So that's pretty cool because Shelby used to play for the Broncos. So props to Shelby Harris, props to Scott for being able to get the job done, and I think that's a great story. Now, the other thing I'm in a dilemma right now. Don Henley, the longtime frontman for the Eagles, he was on CBS this weekend, and I watched the extended version of the interview. It was like 45 minutes that they put out on YouTube, and he indicated in the interview that this is the last little run for the Eagles. So they've got concerts scheduled at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and I think the last date's like on April 11th. And the problem is all the dates in February, March, and April, they're all on weekends where the Blazers also play basketball games, and I don't see any dates scheduled after the basketball season's over. There are a couple of dates where I could make it down to see my buddy Steve, fly in, catch the show, and then head out the next morning to get back in time for a Blazer game. But I don't know if I'm going to go. I have not seen them at the Sphere. I have not been to a show to see any band at the Sphere. But based on everyone I've talked to that has been there, They say it's incredible. And Don Henley went into detail on the Sphere in terms of the acoustics and how it sounds. And he said what's amazing is when you're sitting in the audience and you're watching the show, that it's loud enough, but it's not too loud. And it's mixed perfectly. So you can actually be sitting next to someone in the Sphere. The music can be playing as the band is performing, and you can still talk to the person next to you and yet still be able to hear the music without, the excessive noise that you get in some venues without the proper mix. Now, he did say that, and this I didn't totally understand. I think I kind of did, but he said that the way it's mixed on the stage is that they all wear like these ear monitors. And he said in the old days, you used to wear one in one ear and keep the other ear open to hear what was going on stage around you. But he said now you wear a monitor in both ears. There's guys that mix one side of the stage for some of the band members, and there's another guy on the other side that mix the other side of the stage for the other band members. And he said it took a while to get used to, having to listen and rely on these guys mixing the sound so they know exactly what's going on and they can hear what's going on around them. So it's different, but he said that the result is perfect. The video work is incredible. There's like one special camera that's really expensive that they use to film all the footage that goes, for the images that you see when you're at the Sphere. But the sound and the acoustics are near perfect. So I'm torn. Do I go and check the Eagles out one more time? I've seen them live in person 23 times. They're my favorite band, and they put on the best show that I've ever seen. But I don't know. I think I might be done. In fact, I was thinking about this. I can't think of any of the old rock and roll bands that I have seen or ones that are still out that I have not seen that I need to go see. Like, I think I might be content in that category. Like, if I never see the Eagles again, I am satisfied with the times I got to see them and how fun those shows were. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do, to go and listen to the music. The other thing, too, about their Sphere show is that it's a little bit shorter than their normal concerts, which would last usually over 3 hours when they'd play like 27 to 30 songs. The current set list for the Eagles at the Sphere is 21 songs, which is still one heck of a show. They open with Hotel California, and they close out with an encore that includes 4 songs: Take It Easy, Rocky Mountain Way, Desperado, and Heartache Tonight. And they get a couple of solo tunes in there from Henley right now with The Boys of Summer and The End of the Innocents. But, yeah, I think the Sphere, I want to see the Sphere. I just don't know. It's going to be tough. I'm hoping that they add something maybe in May or later in April after basketball season. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this goes back to the whole music deal and, how the NFL is not targeting people like me. I'm stuck in my wheelhouse. I got the music I like from my era and some of the stuff that came before my time, and I listen to that all the time, and I love it. But I've seen pretty much all the bands that I've wanted to see in person I've seen, or acts that I thought I had to go see I've done. I can't think of any that are still touring that I have to go see. There were bands that I never got a chance to see I wish I could have, but I don't know. It's just weird. Interesting to reach this time. But if you've been to the Sphere, hit me up on the Rip City Radio text line at 885-280. Is it worth the time and the investment? Because the tickets are not exactly what we would call bargain shopping prices. It's a little bit expensive. But I have not been. So if you have, hit me up on the text line and let me know if it's worth the investment. Lamar Hurd, Portland Trail Blazers. He joined me a couple of days ago, and I had a chance to talk to him about a variety of topics. We heard from him on turnovers and how that's probably the biggest area of need for improvement as they enter into the stretch run with 26 games to go. But I asked him about Deni Avdija, about the way that teams are now scouting him and game planning against him, and yet he's still producing at a high rate. I mean, are we starting to see evidence that this guy is indeed a budding superstar in the NBA? Here's what Lamar Hurd had to say.
Yep, just described it and further, it's the definition of an all-NBA player. It's the definition of the kind of player when people ask the opposing coach pregame, hey, coach, what are you guys going to do to stop this person? And you always hear this answer, Chad, well, we know we can't stop him. We're just going to try to make things a little difficult on him.
Yeah.
That's the land that Deni is walking in now, and it's real. And we saw it last season, but I understand some of these things take time for people to become real believers in, and that is fair because some people can do one thing one season and then the next season they're half the player that you saw the year before, or it works the other way around, whatever it is. You're looking for the consistency. This guy's been more than consistent in chat. That dangerous, I think, is the best word to describe it, as you said, Denny used.
Yeah.
Because think about Denny and the numbers he racks up, the assists per game he racks up, and this team has not even been a good shooting team. They've been among the worst in the NBA, and he's still racking it up. So now that's where I'm going back to. Wait a minute. If they get back to this style of play, because this style of play can negate poor shooting nights as well. The offense creates other opportunities. But if they are shooting even moderately or above average, yeah, dangerous is real because they match up with anybody. You can't name a team in the NBA that when these guys are healthy, they can't match up with. Where you say, okay, well, who's going to guard this person? And then, okay, well, in the second unit, who's going to do this? They have answers to those questions, and that's what makes it exciting and, yeah, makes them dangerous.
All right, there you go. That's Lamar Hurd. The Blazers are dangerous right now, and that's the way I look at them during this stretch run. Now, the other issue that they're faced with is what they're going to do with their two-way players. My guess would be, because in order to make room for either player or both players, you're going to have to move one or two players off the roster who are currently there. So the question is, who would that be? Well, I guess here would be my question and how to answer that. Matisse Thybulle. Is Matisse Thybulle going to play again this season? If so, when? And that's how I would be able to tell you how they should proceed forward. If Matisse Thybulle is not going to play again this year because he's not recovered from injury or whatever the case may be, then I would work out a buyout for Thybulle, cut him off the roster, and then I would make space for Sidy Cissoko. Now, Caleb Love has done a terrific job, and I've been very pleased with his performance and play. But I'm not going to make room or cut a player from the roster for Caleb Love because they have a surplus of guards now. With Shaedon Sharpe soon to come back, with the return of Scoot Henderson, with Jrue Holiday, with the addition of Vit Krejci, they don't need guard help. But having a wing like Cissoko, who is a physical body, who plays with a lot of hustle and energy, and he can create some chaos when he comes on the floor, he might be a player you'd want to have. So if Matisse Thybulle is not going to play, then I would work out a buyout for Thybulle for the remainder of the year, and then I would add Cissoko to the roster. Convert him, and have him become a full-time player, and then you have access to Cissoko. And he's got a lot of playing time this year, so he can be an effective player. That's how I would handle that. Now, if Thybulle is going to come back after the break, and he's going to play and be available the rest of the year, then I want Thybulle because he's a better player than Cissoko. But I just have doubts on whether or not we're going to see Thybulle play another game for the Trailblazers. If so, then the answer is pretty simple. Buy out Thybulle, cut Thybulle, and then convert Cissoko. But Caleb Love, unfortunately, there's just no room for him now because they've got plenty of guards. But a physical body, a wing player who can defend like Cissoko would be of value if Thybulle's not going to play. And I'm not going to cut Rupert or Chris Murray because I still see value with those young contracts and the skills that they bring to the table. All right, we'll come back. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. We'll find out about his college basketball tour, and we'll recap the Super Bowl and see what's going on in his mind. I appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. You got the Rip City Drive right here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, always a pleasure to welcome my brother from another mother from Fox Sports Radio, Mr. Brian Noe, back to the Rip City Drive. Bino, what's up, my brother?
What is going on, Chad? Doing? Always good to catch up with you, my buddy, and talk some ball, talk some hoops, talk some Lamb of God. You know, you got to get your metal fix in here as well. I know how you roll.
Well, that's what I like, is that you're helping broaden my horizons, my friend. I got to tell you what, it was really fun to be texting with you a couple of nights ago and find out that you were in another random spot, this time Lawrence, Kansas, checking out some Rock Chalk Jayhawk, man. How was that experience?
It was unbelievable, Chad. It was awesome, man. That is one of, like, the hallowed ground spots in all of sports, not just college hoops. I've always wanted to go there to see KU. I finally made it. And what a game, man. They took down number 1 Arizona. It was an awesome game. And that atmosphere, that rivals, like, some of the best football atmospheres I've ever been to. So, yeah, they do it right there. Rock Chalk Land, like, that's crazy, man. That is, like, top shelf quality. If you're going for an atmosphere, that is right there at the top.
Dude, that's so cool. You know what's great is that, you know, when you grow up watching sports like you and I did, these places that we've seen on our TVs over the years become so much larger than life. And for me, I grew up watching Big 8 basketball. I was a big Oklahoma fan, and I just remember year after year Oklahoma going in there with good basketball teams and still getting their face kicked in, and that place became almost like hollow ground. Like, how are you supposed to get a win there, man? It's brutal.
It's brutal. It really is. And that's the thing. Like, since we were kids, like, Kansas has been good that whole time. They've been good for 4 decades and beyond that. You know, it's just like, while we've been alive, they've always been good. It's not easy to do that for that long. And that atmosphere, man, you get it. Like, you can kind of feel it on TV, but it's different when you're there. And you can relate to this, Chad. Once you feel it in person, you feel it a little bit differently when you watch it on TV. It's like, okay, I kind of understand a little bit better how it feels there right now, even though you might not totally understand that if you're just watching it on TV. So that part of it's really cool too. I'll definitely see KU games a little bit differently when they're at home now.
Yeah, no question about it. I just think it's neat how in college sports like basketball or football, how you get these weird pockets across the country where on the map it's like a no-name town, but then you go there and somehow they've been able to build a powerhouse over the years in football or basketball. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And it's funny. I spent the night there, and then I went to a barbecue spot. Kansas City is really close to Lawrence. Lawrence is not that far west in Kansas. It's just like pretty much right down the road from Kansas City. So I stopped in Kansas City. I got some barbecue, and I did a double take because I thought someone was walking in with a Kentucky shirt on. And I just looked, and of course it was a Kansas shirt. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense, right? Like, because in those areas, that would just be like, who is this psycho wearing Kentucky right here? But you're right, like those like tight-knit communities and those random spots, you're not going to see just someone just walking down the street in a Kentucky T-shirt. It's not going to happen in that area. And I think that's cool. I like that.
All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio with us here on the Rip City Drive. All right, the Super Bowl, I mean, it played out in some ways the way you and I thought it would, but then I didn't expect such ineptitude from the Patriots on offense. And I guess what frustrated me the most, Brian, was they knew going into the game they were going to have issues with the left side of their offensive line at left tackle and left guard. And yet throughout the course of the game, we never saw an adjustment from Josh McDaniels in terms of how to deal with that. And I really felt like he did a bad job of leaving his young quarterback, on an island. And then I look at the stat sheet after the game, and they have like a combined 13 carries on the ground by their running backs. That was really bizarre, and I think a missed opportunity for the Patriots.
Yeah, man, it was such a vanilla game plan. It just didn't make sense to me where if you're just looking at Josh McDaniels, Drake May is struggling massively in that game, right? And like you said, they didn't do much to help him out. Okay, you're going to have a hard time running the ball. I get it. Seattle is tough against the run. But can you move the pocket? You know, can you go play action a little? Can you do something? No trick plays at all. No, nothing. Like just very, very vanilla. Just like, hey, let's stick with what's not working. You know, it just didn't make any sense to me. There weren't any adjustments. And, man, I'll tell you what, Drake May, I think highly of him. I think he is the real deal. Time will tell if that's true or not. I don't think you just luck your way into completing 73% of your passes throughout the regular season and being number 2 in the MVP race. Like, that's pretty good. I know everybody wants to chalk it up to a very, very favorable schedule, but I think Drake May's got the goods, but in the playoffs he sure didn't. And in the Super Bowl, that dude was obscenely bad. And I just don't cut him slack, Chad. I thought that with his shoulder getting numbed up, I think they did the Tyrod Taylor and kind of like numbed up the wrong area. I think his brain was numb during that game. He took forever to make any decisions whatsoever. I don't agree with the people saying, oh, he just didn't have a chance. He didn't have a chance on a handful of plays where it was just an Olay block and he literally just didn't have a chance. That's not for 67 plays. He just didn't have a chance. He was bad. He was freaking terrible. And I don't want to take credit away from Seattle. They played really tough defense, but he's better than that. And he had his worst game at the worst moment. And I think that's what cost the Patriots, man. It cost them it's still a 12-0 game at the end of the third quarter. It's still a game. It was still a game when it was 19-7. And they had a little bit of rhythm going, and then he just threw an interception where Chris Collinsworth was like, I got nothing. That's how bad it was. Collinsworth couldn't even say anything about it.
Yeah, you know what's going to be really interesting to see moving forward is, we see this a lot with teams that get to the Super Bowl and lose, that hangover and the impact it has on you the next season. I wonder if his confidence is shaken coming out of that game and that playoff run. And then you fast forward to next year, you're going to have the Patriots playing a first-place schedule, and then you look around the AFC, Patrick Mahomes will be back at some point. Joe Burrow is going to be there with the Bengals. You've got all these other teams with great quarterback play. Like, that could be a difficult adjustment and pathway for the Patriots next year. Even though they have salary cap and draft picks to work with, I just wonder how they're going to respond with the offseason program and getting into the next year with the schedule they're going to have to face with that hangover. I'm going to be watching them closely to see what type of response we get from Drake May and company.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people are very skeptical about the Patriots, which I do get, but it is a little bit weird at the same time, I think, Chad, because, listen, when you get to that Super Bowl stage, everybody's watching. We're talking 125 million people. We're not missing that game, especially the football fans. And Drake May was brutal, and so the schedule is going to get a lot tougher. It was incredibly favorable. Like one of the most historically favorable schedules ever. So it's going to get a lot tougher to go from a last-place schedule this past season to a first-place schedule next season. And a lot of people skeptical of the Patriots and skeptical of Drake May. I wouldn't sell all of my Drake May stock because I do think he's got a lot of talent. I think the future is bright, but it's definitely a step up in weight class. And look, they're not the team that just won 4 games in each of the last 2 years, and you can sneak up on opponents a lot easier that way. Now, all of a sudden, they're a 14-3 team that made it to the Super Bowl. Like, they are a marked team, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, I give credit to the Seahawks. A lot of franchises, they wait too long to make decisions. The Hawks made a tough move. They got off of Pete Carroll. They gave more power to John Schneider. He went out and found the right head coach in Mike McDonald, and within 2 years they won a Super Bowl. But you look at what he did with the Russell Wilson trade. They brought in some key pieces. The way they've drafted over the last couple of years, they did a lot of good work, front office and coaching staff combined. And they also made the unpopular decision to unload Geno Smith and bring in Sam Darnold, and that move paid dividends. So I just look back at the moves they made and the season they put together, but most importantly, the work by Mike McDonald with the defense, his expertise, and what he was able to get done this year. It's impressive.
Man, what's funny is you think about a couple of those moves. When they let Pete Carroll go, it was just like, whoa. And look how that turned out, And then I remember Mina Kimes, who I think does a great job with ESPN, huge Seahawks fan. She caught a lot of flack because when Geno Smith was let go, she was basically like, I don't know about this move. I don't know how it gets much better than what you just let go. It's like it got way better, you know? So you look at a couple of those those are like foundational type moves. Like, okay, this is definitely changing who we are. We're no longer a team coached by Pete Carroll. We're no longer a team that's got Geno Smith as the starting quarterback. And Geno had a couple of really good years with them. So, yeah, they made a major change, a couple of major changes, and they came out smelling like a rose. You really have to give a lot of credit to John Schneider for the Mike McDonald hire. What a job he's done, right? Year 2, already a Super Bowl champ as the head coach of the Seahawks. He's done a phenomenal job with that defense. And some of these moves personnel-wise, you trade for DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys. That worked out great. You traded for Leonard Williams, who is a stud on that defensive line. And the smaller moves, like trading for a guy like Rashid Shaheed during the season, and he had a huge punt return for a touchdown at home against the Rams, and how big that win was, getting them the 1 seed. And I don't know that they even get to the Super Bowl if they don't win that game at home. And let's say they're the 5 seed and don't win their division. So, and Rashid Shaheed, a big kickoff return against the Niners to get things going, you know. And of course, the Sam Darnold trade, all of that. Well, not even trading, just picking him up. He was released. All of those personnel moves have paid huge dividends. So you got to give a lot of credit to Schneider and McDonald, because you're right. It's not just Drake May screwing things up. It's a lot of what they got right along the way as well.
All right, Brian Noe, as you look into the offseason, I mean, what are the teams that you would expect to bounce back? Is it going to be basically the same players next year? Are they like, let's start with the AFC. You know, Buffalo and New England would appear to be the front runners in the AFC East, with Baltimore and probably Cincinnati in the North. My guess would be Houston would be and Jacksonville the leaders in the South, with a combination of the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs in the AFC West. Do you think that it's going to be the usual suspects, or are we going to see an unexpected team, you know, rise up like Jacksonville this year?
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a team. Maybe the Colts catch you by surprise a little bit. You know, maybe, I don't know, just like a crazy jump for Cam Ward, or I don't know, they have like a Patriots type spending spree. You know, the Patriots had a ton of money in the offseason. They went from a 4-win team to 14 wins. So maybe something like that. But where it stands right now, a team like Tennessee, like the Titans would have to crush the draft, crush free agency, and Cam Ward would just have to take a mammoth step forward for them to be like one of those shocking teams. The Bengals were only 6-11, you know, like that. And you would expect them to be in the mix. But, like, I don't know if you're going to see a Patriots-like surprise next season. You might not see a Patriots-like surprise for the next 5 seasons, you know, in the AFC or the NFC. It's really hard to even get there. They were 80-1 to win it all before the season started. Seattle 60-1. Like, that's crazy. To even get there is crazy. So I don't know that you're going to see a major shock like that. When you rattle off the usual suspects, that's a lot there to get around and get through, you know? So I don't know if it's going to see like some shocking surprise. My Finns are dead on arrival already. There are a couple of – the Jets have no chance. You know, there are a couple of teams in the AFC you can feel confident saying they have zero chance with the competition that's in their way, man. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, the Jets and Browns are a disaster, and they'll finish near the bottom of the pack in the AFC again next year. No question about it. They suck.
Yeah. Yeah, they just don't have enough, man. Like, think about what it would take. Like, we were talking trash about Drake May in the Super Bowl and his playoff performances and all that, but the regular season, that guy was legit, right? Like, almost won MVP, 73% completion rate, legit. So that's a high bar. I know that people are, you know, raining on the parade right now, but that is a high bar. I'll put it this way. If you could say, hey, Cam Ward is going to play exactly the same as Drake May did this past season, Titans fans, personnel, ownership, they'd be like, sign us up right now. Sold. You know, like, if it's Fernando Mendoza, if he plays like Drake May in his rookie season this coming year, the Raiders are like, sold. Great. Let's do it. Sign us up for that. Like, it's not easy for someone to play that well. That's going to be really difficult to duplicate.
All right, what about the NFC? Usual suspects. It's easy to look at the Niners, Rams, or Seahawks, but maybe a surprise team. Is it New York with John Harbaugh? Would it be Kevin Stefanski and the Atlanta Falcons? Or is it going to be the usual suspects of the Eagles, the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, and then the three teams in the NFC West? What do you think there?
I think the Lions are going to be a handful, man. I really think the Lions are going to have a resurgence here. Because they're playing a last place schedule, Chad. It's crazy, right? Like I did my geek charts the other day, like we don't know the exact dates, right? But we know home and away, we know all the opponents, we know everything as far as who the Lions are facing. And I'm just doing the schedules, and I'm like, wow, this is they're going to be back. Like they're going to be a problem playing a last place schedule. That team like Washington, right? Washington had such a great year a couple of years back with Jaden Daniels. And if he's healthy for all 17 games, like maybe Washington is another pain. They have a season that's a pain for everybody else. Going to be interesting to see where the Eagles go. You know, is A.J. Brown still there? Are they making major changes? Can the Cowboys take a step forward? There are a lot of teams where – outside of the three you mentioned in the NFC West, you'd have to imagine it seems like the Seahawks, Rams, and Niners should be pretty tough to deal with. But then it's like, who emerges? Who's that team in the NFC North that maybe takes a big step forward? Could it be the Packers? Is it going to be the Bears? Like, the NFC South is just like, man, you're guaranteed a home game if you win that division. So we'll see if Stefanski can work some magic But I would say those teams in the NFC West, and I think the Lions, man. I think the Lions are going to have a resurgence. I think that was a year that, the schedule was brutal, especially on the road, and it's going to be a lot more favorable this next season. I would start buying Lion stock right away.
All right, man. I'll keep that in the back of my mind. Bino, Brian O, Fox Sports Radio with us. All right, so a couple of days ago, walking around the station just trying to piece together things, and I had a couple of pieces of mail on my desk. Occasionally I get mail sent to me at the station there in Tigard, and I came across this letter, and it had beautiful handwriting on it, and I looked at the return address, and it said Miss Darlene No from Granger, Indiana, and I was like, I've never spoken to a Darlene No, but I know Brian No from Fox Sports Radio. And I opened up the card, and what I love about this is it's a beautiful card that says, thinking of you and hoping you find strength and healing with each new day. And what I love about the card is that there's something about a lady's handwriting that's beautiful to me. And part of what she wrote was, I'm so sorry to hear of your loss, and wanted to convey my sincere sympathy. Please know you have people in the audience like me pulling for you. May many blessings come your way. Sincerely, Darlene No. And I thought, I've got to text Brian No. And I thought, how sweet was that, Bino? I have never spoken with her, but she heard about the loss of my brother last month and decided to send me a card. I thought that was very sweet of her. So I give my best to your loving mom. This is phenomenal.
Oh, man, yeah, she's the best. She really is. I love nobody else more than my mama on earth. And that's really cool that she reached out to you and sent you a card.
Did you
like
prompt
that.
her to do that?
What's that?
Did you prompt her to do that, or she want to do it on her own?
No, that was all on her own. That was all on her own. And, she asked me for the address, and so I asked Shaq Diesel, to give me the address. And Shacker was hilarious. He was like, I'm like, hey, man, what address is it to send Chad Doing a card? And Shacker's like, yeah, here's the address. And I'm like, all right, that's it? I don't put like 5th floor. He's like, yeah, add this. And I'm like, okay, is that it? And he's like, add this. It's like, dude, what's the freaking address, Shaq Diesel? Oh, my gosh. No, it's funny because you texted me that Mrs. No is now my favorite No. And I'm like,
yes.
Man, that's only sad news. She trumped me in the power rankings. She surpassed me in the power rankings right now. Yeah, but I get it, man. Totally understandable.
But you know what's great about that is that I'm sure I'm a lot like you. Like I'm a classic dude from the standpoint that, I don't want to sit around and, spend too much time thinking about my feelings. And so I just move on with work and try to stay busy to keep my mind off of things. So it's nice when you have someone like your mom who took the opportunity to reach out and send a note. And I thought that was nice. So it gave me a moment to sit back and reflect and think about some of the stuff that's taken place over the last few weeks. So I thought that's pretty much a sweetheart right there. So I don't even have to meet your mom, Brian, to know that she's a freaking awesome mom. And that's what moms do right there. Perfect example.
Absolutely. Well, hey, if we got plans to go see the Irish pummel Miami this coming season.
I can't wait. Right? Oh, wait. Have we got a date on that? I haven't looked at the date yet. Let me pull up the date right now. Let me see what that is. By the way,
it's
if you're Bino, I'll pull it up right now. So if you're Bino, she's Dino!
That's right. That's right. I never thought of it that way, but that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dino of Granger, Indiana.
And, you can, you can meet her. That'd be cool for you to, we could grab some lunch or something like that.
Oh,
but
that would
it looks
be awesome.
like November 7th. So that's good timing. My birthday's November 4th. You can buy my ticket. I won't frown on that, Chad. It's totally fine. No, I'm just kidding. But it's right after my birthday. It's a great time to go see the Irish.
Okay.
So hopefully we can make that
spectacular.
happen.
Yeah, because of all their games that they have at home, Miami, they've got Navy, Stanford. That's by far Michigan State. That's by far the best home game. By far.
By far. I'm curious what those tickets will be, Chad. I looked for Cameron Crazy tickets. I've always wanted to see Duke. So I was like, well, the hell with it. I'm going on this college basketball tour, I guess. So
yeah.
I looked.
How much were the North Carolina tickets? Yeah.
They play North Carolina pretty soon. It was like $1,600 get-in price, and it's like, oh my gosh, wow. So they're not going to be that much for the Irish hosting Miami. They won't be that much. I don't know what they will be, but that's insanity, man. That's way too. That's like bowl game type stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited that you're going. How much did you pay for the ticket to see Syracuse at the Cameron Indoor?
It wasn't bad. It was under $200. What's funny is I don't know if they're legit or not. I really don't. I bought it on one of those sites. Like I use TickPick is the one I've used quite a bit lately, where they add the fees in there. So whatever price, I like that. There's no hidden fees, Chad. But I use that one, and it's like the lower bowl, and it's general admission. I swear it's like with the Cameron Crazies. I'm like, I don't think you can, you're almost about to turn 50. I don't think you just buy a ticket and, stand with the Crazies. I don't think that's a thing.
But you look young.
It's, right in that area. So, I don't know. We'll find out.
I want to see you with one of those crazy costumes on.
I do, too. I'm totally up for it. But on the very other side of the court, it's like the same section, and they're like almost $900 for those tickets. And on the exact opposite side, I'm like, these are less than $200. I'm like, I don't know if there's some weird catch. I don't know, but I'm going to roll the dice and hopefully tickets get me into the arena. I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, now Michael Shacker just shared with me the text exchange between you and him for the address when you were asking for the address. So check this out.
Yeah.
This is what he wrote to you. This is classic Shacker. That is very nice of your mom. Can you also ask your mom to send a card to Chad to let him know that the Broncos suck and will be one and done in the postseason? That's good. That's really
awesome.
Good.
That's good.
No responded. Don't worry, I can definitely take care of that part myself. Maybe Darlene's going to hook up for Notre Dame tickets, because I'll tell you one thing: these idiots better understand this is not the Catholics versus convicts game of 1988. So I do not want to be charged like it's the Catholics convict game from '88.
Man, yeah. Well, that's the thing is, you think about how big that game was last year. That really determined Miami getting to the playoff and Notre Dame not getting there. So just that alone from last season, they're going to be a little expensive. I don't know how much they're going to be, but I don't think it's
all worth it.
Like crazy. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Bino, Fox Sports Radio. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Enjoy your weekend, and enjoy the All-Star game. It's sad, man. I got to be honest with you. I'm down here at Spirit Mountain. The buzz last week before the Super Bowl was amazing, and now it's like I'm still dealing with the fact, and I'm sure you are as well, that we have to go like 6 or 7 months without football. It sucks.
It does suck, but you know what? The Blazers are winning, and it looks like I'm cashing that bet thanks to your great advice. It's beautiful, right? They lose
what did you get the number at?
I'm like, oh, gosh, we're getting further and further away from 500. Boom! How's that? Like a 4-game winning streak sound. How's that sound? Yeah, a lot better. Let's do it.
Hey, let me share this with you. I shared this at the top of the show. I pinned my tweet from October 21st, right when the season was about to get underway. Here's what I said. My expectations and predictions for the Trailblazers 2025-26 season. 45 wins. Vegas total set between 32.5 and 35.5. Pound the over. I said they would be a top 5 to top 10 defense. They're a little bit off that mark. Kamara, as a first-team all-defensive player, he's on that mark. Sharp will emerge as a number 1 option. He's shown flashes. And I said team MVP, Denny Avdia. So I'm not too far off.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. And it's so funny,
what did you get the number at?
I got it at my big bet was 34.5.
Oh, you
sprinkled a little because you were so strong. And I sprinkled a little at the adjusted line at 38.5, which is also
nice.
More than live to cash as well. So let's get after it.
Dude, if you go through, I went through and looked at their final 26 games. They played their toughest part of the schedule at the start of the year, and the easy part of the schedule is now coming up. Like it is, they're going to go like they got 26 games to play. I think they're going to go 19-7 down the stretch.
Wow! Holy cow! Yeah, dude. Well, I can just kick my feet up and start sipping lemonade right now. This is music to my ears. I love hearing this.
Dude, the best part was for people who did not hear this before. So No puts his play in on the Blazers. He pounds the over like I told him to. And after the first game, the head coach gets taken away by the FBI. He's like, no!
I know. Oh, I was like, what is happening right now? But, yeah, I remember talking to you shortly after that, and you're like, really don't worry because, talk to Dwight. Dwight's all about Tiago Splitter. Like, he's highly thought of. It can be a legitimate head coach in the league, and they haven't missed a beat, man. He's done a really good job.
Well, when you cash that ticket, you're going to have Darlene send Tiago Splitter a card, too.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. It doesn't have to just be after a loss. It could be after a win. No doubt. I like that.
All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. Dude, I love you, man. Have a great weekend, and you and I will catch up soon.
Absolutely, Chad. Doing much love to you as well, and hope you have a fantastic weekend, albeit without football. But life does go on, and it'll be the 2026 season before you know it.
You got it. There's Bino, Fox Sports Radio. Big thanks to him. And Darlene Noe, thank you, Darlene. I really appreciate your love and reaching out to me. That was heartfelt and very sweet. Big thanks to Michael Shacker, our guest today, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, Michelle Jalali, the senior director of DEI with the Trailblazers, and, of course, Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager for the BetMGM Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the All-Star weekend. Let's go Dame in the three-point contest, and I'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.